All right, let's jump right into Ezra chapter 5 today.
Okay.
We're in Jerusalem, and things are picking up again. The rebuilding of the house of God, it's back on.
Yeah, and you've got the prophets, Haggai and Zechariah really sort of spurring people on.
Exactly. And Zerubbabel and Jeshua are leading the charge.
Mm-hmm. But just as things get going again, right when this huge project is back underway,
Bro.
boom, officials arrive.
Right, for the Trans-Euphrates region, Tatnai the governor, Shethar-Boaz.
And their colleagues, yeah. They're not just sightseeing, they come with some pretty direct questions.
Very direct. Basically, who told you you could rebuild this temple? Like, who authorized this specific building?
And not just what authority, but who exactly is doing it. They ask, what are the names of the men constructing this building? They want specifics, accountability.
So how did the Jewish elders respond to that? It sounds pretty confrontational.
Well, their answer is really fascinating. They don't just, say God wants this. They frame it carefully for these officials. First, they identify themselves. Servants of the God of heaven and earth. So grounding their identity in the divine.
Right, establishing their primary allegiance.
Exactly. But then they immediately connect it to history and sort of cause and effect. They explain, look, our ancestors angered this God.
Bringing in the historical context.
Yes. And because of that anger, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, destroyed the original temple and took our people into exile. They're laying out the backstory.
Okay, so they're explaining why it needed rebuilding in the first place.
Precisely. And then comes the crucial part for the officials. They cite King Cyrus.
The big administrative justification.
The big one. They say, King Cyrus, in his very first year as king, issued a decree, a specific order to rebuild this house of God.
And did they mention the temple treasures that Nebuchadnezzar took?
They did. They explained that Cyrus's decree even included returning the gold and silver articles from the first temple.
Wow. Okay.
And that Cyrus gave these articles to a man named Sheshbazzar.
Sheshbazzar, right. Wasn't he appointed to governor?
That's what they claimed. Appointed by Cyrus, tasked with bringing the articles back to Jerusalem, putting them in the temple, and critically rebuilding it on its original site.
So they're providing a name, a title, and a specific task assigned by the previous emperor.
Exactly. And they add that Sheshbazzar did come, he laid the foundation, and the work has basically been ongoing ever since.
Even though it wasn't finished yet.
Right, it's a work in progress.
Hmm.
So they present this clear chain: divine will, historical consequence, and imperial authorization through Cyrus.
But the text adds that little detail. The eye of their God was watching over the elders. What's the significance of that, do you think?
Well, it seems to suggest something beyond just the human interaction, doesn't it? It implies divine protection or oversight.
Like, despite the official pressure, they couldn't just be shut down immediately.
That seems to be the idea. This divine watchfulness perhaps influenced the officials' actions. They couldn't just halt everything on the spot.
So what did Tatnai and his group do then? They have this explanation, this claim about Cyrus.
They did the proper administrative thing, really. They documented everything.
The report to the higher ups.
Exactly. They wrote a letter to the current king, Darius. They described the scene, the large stones being used, the timbers, how quickly the work was progressing.
And they included the elders' defense?
Oh, yes. They reported the whole claim. They laid out what the elders said about being servants of God, the destruction by Nebuchadnezzar, and, crucially, the alleged decree from King Cyrus.
So they relayed the justification fully.
Fully. And their request to Darius was very specific. Search the royal archives.
Check the records.
Check the records in Babylon, see if this decree from Cyrus actually exists. Find out if he really did authorize this temple rebuilding in Jerusalem.
So they're asking for verification before making a final decision.
Right. Let's confirm the historical basis of this claim first. Then King Darius can decide what to do next.
Okay, so this whole chapter, it really sets up a kind of tension, doesn't it?
It really does. You've got human authority doing its due diligence, the officials asking questions, writing reports, requesting archival searches. Very procedural.
But layered over that is this statement about the eye of their God watching. Divine oversight.
Exactly. So it leaves you, the listener, with something interesting to think about. How does this story portray the balance, or maybe the interplay, between human systems of authority and verification, like checking the royal archives, and the conviction, the faith of the people actually doing the work who believe they're under divine guidance?
Yeah, how much weight does the verifiable historical record carry compared to the sheer force of belief and action on the ground? It's a fascinating question to ponder.